So yeah.
I forgot to record. But yeah, so we're talking about, just a recap for the behind the scenes recording. We're going to start keeping track of what we want to do instead of a Google Doc, put it in a slideshow. That way we can show them if we need, especially for the announcements. So does anyone have an opinion on what our next debate topic should be?
I mean, the two that seem most ripe for conversation would be the Biden administration's. I mean, the general topic is the Biden administration's comments on misinformation, countering misinformation on the different online platforms. The Tim Pool post could be an angle that we focus on. Or, the other one would be the one you posted of the people debating on YouTube. That was fascinating. But we haven't done a breakdown of a YouTube debate yet. So maybe.
I don't know if Adriel or Steve saw that one, but the one of the points in the debate was a challenge to a jiu-jitsu match. Was it jiu-jitsu challenge? So we were thinking we should include that in our podcast.
Yeah.
It should be mixed debate.
There's like a whole cottage industry of people talking about how bad YouTube debate is, right? There's like a bunch of this kind of stuff, yeah.
But it's a guy that I've actually interacted with. He tries to debunk bad nutrition science. Unfortunately, I think he would think that what worked for me doesn't work. So I'm a little skeptical of the skeptic, but or I don't know, he'd probably just say it has side effects that I haven't hit yet. But
that's convenient.
Yeah. So so I don't remember the Biden one, and for the Pool, Tim or Ted Pool, whichever one you said, we need a specific quote, which I think you were just saying, here's not a good one. So
I mean, don't you
think not a good one for it's not a good one for one of the points I wanted to discuss about Tim Pool's style. But we could start off with that one, and then I could just kind of throw in comments about his style.
I'm okay with that. If you have time to find one that expresses both points, that would be ideal. So yeah, does anyone I don't remember the Biden one. Is that in there somewhere?
It's the same thing that Tim Pool is posting about the censorship on social media. Isn't that it? Like we're gonna ban.
It was the last tweet I posted.
Yeah. Because that would work well together, because you can talk about Pool's style as well, and what gets you thinking about what he's doing.
And then we could score it.
There you go.
All right. So for lack of other options, I say we go ahead and do that one right now.
Yeah. So, well, when you say right now, we need to figure out the responses that we want to show as well. But
sure. If this is just going to be like a planning meeting, then we can do it that way, where let's kind of save a lot of our observations, but we can go and start picking out, filling out your slides.
Yeah, I mean, unless you want to just record the first half of the podcast, and I still can't get my camera working. So that'd be bad. I mean, I could go to my backup camera.
Yeah, I wonder what happened to it.
It's It's fine. I'm using an HDMI link to get it into an old DSLR camera, so this happens every time I reboot my PC. Yeah, let's see. All right, so does how do we want to show this? I mean, I could take a screenshot.
I like it
still,
like this. This is great, but whoa.
now is that, I mean, so what are we talking about? Dark days indeed. I mean, that seems very, I guess I don't see that as a great, 3 words is not a great phrase to, it just doesn't seem very rich to me.
Yeah, it's very straightforward. But part of it is it you know, it has embedded in it a very specific perspective. So it's reaffirming a perspective on what's being talked about there without actually supporting it or anything. It's just giving kind of an emotional reaction or a bit of prognosticating. It's not very rich, but it touches on one side of a very rich debate.
But is it a good example of, I mean, I know we want to have counter examples, but it's kind of like, this seems like more like an offhand comment. I don't know if it's worth analyzing an offhand
Well,
comment.
and then part of it would be, you know, how did people respond to that? You know, are people supporting that? Are they against it? Obviously, there are other takes on this exact same video. You know, one of my comments about Tim Pool is going to be that he doesn't explain his position. This is one of the most clear comments I've seen him make, which is why I say it's not a good example of his posts. But it is kind of his style of, you know, I won't say why I think this is. I won't go into any of the weeds in terms of good or bad. It's sort of like his approach is to observe from above, you know, the pieces being played on a chessboard and react somewhat emotionally to it, and yet somehow imply things from what he says.
I like the idea of doing a whole episode on this guy that you suggested in Slack. That would be interesting to look at. What is his style? Because one way you can think of argument is as a perspective or as a style. And so this to me looks like the kind of argument that you would see if we went back to like the 1960s or some pre-internet day, where you would get some kind of a newspaper clipping in your box in the break room, and somebody would be like, take a look at this, pretty bad, and write it on a sticky note and put it on there. This is what this argument is. It's like, so the argument is, this is awful. You need to be aware of this. You need to see it. This is terrible. We're in a bad spot. So it also might be connected to like a bunch of receipts that you rang up on your last business trip. And it might be like, this is bad.
Yeah.
You know, like
it's almost like he's not trying to make a point in a single tweet, which is why maybe a single tweet from him would never really be sufficient or good. It's more like what he's doing is accumulating over all his tweets, kind of a gestalt of what he thinks is going on. It's almost like he's bookmarking to his audience.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, this is like, so the claim is that we're in dark days and this is the data for it. And the warrant would be, well, anytime a government is gonna censor and deplatform people's expression, we're in dark days. That's pretty much what I see here. But I think overall it might be cool to be like, here's the Twitter style. Here's how you do this on Twitter. You build this I don't know what you call it, momentum, or you build this sort of greater weight or a feeling of movement towards a Tim Pool conclusion. Like, what's his worldview? What's his attitude? And we're seeing that over, like, looking at tweets of him hour after hour after hour, day after day after day, because I'm sure he's doing this all day long.
He does. Yeah, I would say he has about 10 tweets a day or something. But the other thing that's interesting to me about him is yeah, it's almost sometimes like dog whistles. Dog whistles have been used specifically these days to mean a secret code to neo-Nazis or white supremacists, right? But
Yeah.
you know, in the broader sense, I just mean like he'll make comments like this where I have no idea what he's talking about. I have no idea how he reads what he's posting because he doesn't include his thesis in his things. And so it's like you have to be one of his followers or,
Right.
you know, to really understand what he's talking about in a lot of these.
Yeah. Before the dog whistle metaphor came out, we used to say winking at parts of the audience.
Although I thought dog whistle was okay, yeah, I guess it was. I always thought it was more like you're saying something in a way that your audience would find inflammatory, but other groups would. So it's triggering the other groups, but it sounds like a reasonable thing to say.
Yeah, it's like
I think dog whistle is it's the opposite. It's you know, your audience understands what you're trying to say, and the general audience just thinks you're saying something normal and uncontroversial or something.
Well, right.
Which is funny because they always get picked up by the media and like, look, a dog whistle. It's like really funny that that's the description because everyone can see it and hear it.
I thought it was, general audience doesn't see anything. Your local audience may see it, but I always thought that dog whistle was also specifically when there's a marginalized group or another small group that will be offended by the way it's phrased.
It could be, but I don't think that's the common usage. I think it's more like go secret army, Proud Boys, go march, Proud Boys, stand down and stand by. I think people call that a dog. The big dog whistle. Yeah, the big dog whistle was when Trump said those Second Amendment people, maybe they know what to do with Hillary. I don't know what to do with Hillary. That was the one that the media called a dog whistle for like a long time. They kept on that forever.
Yeah, I wouldn't say what Tim Pool does is dog whistles. I would say it's more like everything is very much directed at his followers, and a lot of times what he says can't even be interpreted. It's not like he's trying to hide what he's trying to say. It's more like he doesn't bother with explaining it to the average reader.
Yeah, he doesn't need to. I mean, I think if I saw this, I might be like, ooh, what else does this guy have? You know, and then I go look, and then you kind of, by reading it, you're educated how to read it, you know, like this is style.
So I'm fine with experimenting with this. I just want to fully express why I wouldn't choose it. Is that it's not good on its own. It's good with a group of other tweets by him, but that's not the format we're trying to build here. So we're immediately, before we even get the basic format down, we're breaking it, which is, I just, I would prefer to defer this to later and let's try and do something that fits more.
I'm okay with that. I can find one, like what would be interesting is get one of those that I didn't understand what he meant by it. Because that is, I think, would be a good example of, how well did he make his argument? How well is he achieving his goal here? If the average reader can't understand, and look at the responses, in that case, it's not just about what he said, but it's about how people responded to it. And I think in some of those threads, you'll see that what you get are different people interpreting different things from what he meant. And so you get responses all over the place. They're responding to totally different imagined arguments.
But isn't that kind of not as interesting if no one on the podcast actually knows what he meant? I mean, it's not a yes, yet. It's not a, yes, yet. Yes, no. It's a no.
It could be if we investigate, right? If one of us goes into the background and like at the very end kind of reveals what he was actually talking about there. In the meantime, we could talk about the different responses. And,
Would we know what he was saying there? Can we do that?
yeah, I think if you listen to his podcast, you get a feel for what his angle is on everything.
Okay, it still sounds like a very challenging example as opposed to something easy for us to do on our first couple episodes.
Okay.
I like the idea of doing the Tim Pool collection, but I think it requires a lot of prep. I don't think it's something we can just, you know, I mean, it would be really, really cool to fly an F-18. I cannot do that right now.
So do we have, so it sounds like we kind of need to find an easier one for this.
I'm happy with doing this one because I think it's exceedingly clear what he's trying to do from my point of view, but I also consider argumentation to be like the atmosphere, and it's hard to talk about if you put some of it in a Ziploc bag and be like, okay, this is the atmosphere.
Well,
So.
I'm just saying, there's a point where someone is so vague in their argumentation that analysis is less interesting. So I'd rather find something that has a more interesting analysis.
Well, let's table it and give me the homework of finding a good Tim Pool post.
Man, I like that one.
Well, the next question is, what are we going to do for the remaining 40 minutes? So if we can't come up with something else, we can just plow through.
Well, I mean, we need to.
Yeah. What are some of the good responses to this?
Need to find the responses.
Yeah. There's a lot of people.
Why don't y'all pull it up? And
14,000 people found this to be meaningful. I think we could too.
I'm not sure there's a correlation between people finding things interesting and things being interesting.
I think there is, but I'm a reddish.
No.
What do I know? What do I know?
Let's say.
I think that's the evidence that it is interesting because people find it interesting.
Well, a select group of people, not necessarily our audience or who we want our audience to be. You can get 14,000 people off the internet pretty easy.
Oh my God, show me how.
No, I'm not saying to subscribe to your podcast. I'm saying that any person that has already has a following and says something inflammatory can get thousands of people. It's not a signal for it's more like them cheering than it is of them being interested.
I think that's interest. But anyway, I'm not gonna hash the point. Everybody knows my position on this stuff.
Okay.
Well, let's look at this top response here.
Well, why don't y'all pull up this link and look through the responses and suggest them rather than me scrolling through.
Well, this one is specifically. Yeah. While we do that though, this one at the top really is one of the ones I would pull out because,
right.
It has a lot of responses and it is kind of liked and all that sort of thing, but it also hits right on what I think a lot of people's visceral reactions would be to this, which is, okay, Tim Pool is criticizing the Biden administration for wanting to somehow censor speech and control the big tech, right? And so one of the gut reactions is a partisan reaction where it's defend my tribe here. And I think this is a good way to respond to that, right? The way you defend your tribe is you point out what the other side did and accuse the person making the argument of being a hypocrite, right? We see this all the time. So this is a good example of pointing out the feelings of the other side, call the person a hypocrite.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know, Steve, if you want to add something, Adrian, but I would say that there's some background to this that makes it, that shows maybe this is a gut reaction, right? The person has read a lot into what Tim has said, and they may not be right about that.
Yeah, I mean, the first response to me is somebody assuming that because someone's attacking the Biden administration, they're a fan of the Trump administration, which is very common these days. That's a common way to argue these days, is to say, oh, you're wearing blue, you must be against red. And it's probably, well, no, all my red stuff is at the dry cleaners and they closed early and I couldn't get there. Sorry.
I do agree with that, but is there stuff in, because from what I remember about Tim Pool, he was quite, he did come to the defense of the Trump administration quite often.
Not as often as you might think. I would put it a different way. He as he says in his bio, I don't know if you can point that out, but he's like a disaffected liberal. And so it's more like he came on the attack against liberals rather than on the defense of the Trump administration. More like, look at the crazy things they're saying and doing rather than, raising up Trump.
Yeah, I've seen a bit of his stuff, and I definitely got the vibe. Like, I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, I used to be this, and then I've changed," and just the way that they talk about it, like it seems like I don't think you were ever actually that thing that you say you were. I think that's just a fake piece of, oh, well, I used to be this, but I changed, so you can change too. Look at all this, this information I'm providing to help guide you along. But that is, that's speculation on my part.
Yeah, I see a
haven't
little
done
more
too deep of a
nuance
dive.
in his approach, but like his main thing was, he was anti-BLM basically, which you can see an ex-liberal doing if your approach is that, oh, they're trying to justify violence and looting and that sort of thing. I'm not for that. I'm for protesting, but I'm for peaceful protesting or whatever,
Yeah, the George Floyd riots in particular last summer, right? That whole thing was a real kind of confusing nexus for people about trying to defend a sense of conservatism or liberalism, and then try to negotiate all the sort of growing living moments of what was happening in those demonstrations / riots / protests. Even the name of what you call them was like, people are divvying that thing up. So it's a very complicated sort of thing about how to identify, like Black Lives Matter is a great conversation for people to try to be like, well, I'm conservative, but I'm not that kind of conservative, or I'm liberal, I'm not that kind of liberal, right? It's kind of a funny kind of thing. Maybe he was doing that kind of thing. Like, I don't like Black Lives Matter, but I like this other kind of stuff. I don't know. I don't know the guy. This is the first time I've ever seen him. So.
Like the first time I was ever exposed to him was on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Oh, okay.
And he did the same thing, right? Where he sort of did the preface of, oh, I'm an ex-liberal and I did this. And then he was talking about Andy, I don't know how to say his last name, No or Nyo, or like the one who, I've seen stuff on both sides. Like I've seen stuff on the left talking about how, he straight up lies, and then stuff on the right, talking about all this great information he's gathering. But I know that was sort of like one of my first intros, and then I started to follow him on YouTube, and I'm sort of seeing, specs here and there. And I know I'm sort of in the same boat with you, Steve, where I think I understand what he's saying with the post above with the dark days indeed. I mean, it just seems like that's a common theme. He's good, trying to explain how dark things are right now. And so this is just, see, look, it's dark.
Mm-hmm. It's just like, how young people will say co-signed. I mean, I don't know how often you interact with Gen Z people, but I do a lot. Job hazard, but they'll be like co-signed. And that means that they're like, that's an argument of I agree is what they're saying, right? This strikes me as having that same kind of vibe, as they would say, to it. Sorry, Gen Z people watching. I don't mean to butcher your language. I'm working on it. I have Rosetta Stone. I'm working on it. That was a joke.
Yeah.
I'm trying to.
It was a good one. I smiled. I smiled. I was just stunned to hear that cosine is
cosine. Yeah, people they do, or like I'll be teaching, somebody will just be like mood, big mood. I'll say stuff like that, and everybody laughs. Mood. I'm like, okay.
Those languages constantly evolving.
Yeah, I'd rather.
What is mood?
I mean, it'd be easier to teach in French, I feel like. And I don't even speak French, so.
I mean, mood basically just says like, hey, that thing that you just said, or that thing that you just covered, like that captures the mood of right now, or
Mhm.
my mood, or stuff like that.
Or like this general sense of being that everyone can identify as having been there, you know.
All right, so let me refocus us.
Yeah, I found a bunch
Any
of good
other
responses.
Now-
Where do you want me to put them?
Well, okay, so wait, I'm sorry. So we're gonna go with this one today? Was that our consensus? I'm sorry, I was fiddling with my video.
No,
I mean, we are
works.
going with it.
Yeah.
You feel free to kind of redirect us, but we don't have anything else to talk about at this moment.
No one can find a better tweet.
Well, I
Does
think
anyone
Well,
even look?
actually,
we have
I don't know
talked
if-
about it for like almost half an hour, so I feel like it's got some
We
legs.
just talked about mostly how bad it is, not
Yeah, that's
or
fine.
argued about it. That's
That's fine. That's fine. I think it's good.
I have no analysis of it. I guess I have nothing to say about it. This just looks
Oh?
like someone chatting off the cuff, and I really don't care. Yeah.
Huh.
It provides no value. I mean, I could say that,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something to say.
but that's, that's two sentences. That's. I just think in the context of him as a person, I've never seen him on anything.
Yeah,
That
I
it
mean,
would be useful. So unless we want to do a big setup, and still my analysis when the analysis would just be the setup. I just have nothing to say on it. But we're spending time talking about it, right? Because I thought earlier we were like, okay, let's do something else and come back and find a better one for him. So why don't we look? Has anyone looked for tweets?
I mean, I'm looking, scrolling through responses to this right now, but I can go look for another Tim Pool if you want.
Well, I know the point was to not do Tim Pool because you said the point that he has is that you need to look at several of his tweets in order to get the context of it. And that's an interesting topic, but that's like, then we have to gather several tweets together rather than one.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that, except with the word style. And I mean, I think the context in this tweet is perfectly understandable by anybody who comes across it. But I think understanding what Tim Pool is up to stylistically, that's a deeper dive episode that would require some prep. I think that would be interesting to do, but that's like down the road. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but then I would rather save this one for down the road rather than.
Well, could we do the video of the press secretary and what she's saying here? Because that's not.
We
that's
would need a
pretty
quote
interesting.
from the video. So if you want to find a phrase that she says in there, that's interesting.
Yeah, this one right here, you shouldn't be banned from one platform and not others if you're providing misinformation out there. Which seems to be what they're putting here, I guess.
Yeah, that's a controversial statement right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's an argument. For sure. It's the kind of argument you expect to get from the White House, a very simplistic kind of parsimonious parody, parity, not parody, but parity.
I mean,
Well,
I found
this could be, and then Tim Pool's could be a reaction to that quote.
Yeah, you can do it like that. I mean, I think that's what Tim Pool's also trying to do, right? He's like he's like, ugh. Anybody who says this, dark days, man, dark days.
Yeah, I'm scrolling through Tim Pool's timeline and it's like that. I guess as we said at the beginning, that's his style, and like you can see the similar sorts of posts. That's what his Twitter feed is for the most part. And sometimes they don't seem to make sense at all. And then sometimes there actually is like a sentence or two.
Yeah, he's like an edgelord, right? Edgy.
Yeah,
edgy, very edgy. Yeah, I took some screenshots of some of the reactions. I thought like 3 reactions I thought were kind of interesting, but should I just put them into the Google folder?
Well, you should probably put them on a slide. So
okay, I can do that.
And then it'd be best to also make sure you put the link on there as well. We could
Yep.
talk about formatting.
Yeah, I wonder what is good for that. But I'm happy to format it however it looks nice. I'm not a good formatting guy, so.
Of course, now I don't know how I want to put this in, because this is really just a quote. I mean, we could, because if it's on this tweet, I'm not saying that's not reason not to do it, but I'm just saying
Mhm.
this. Are we doing the tweet or are we doing the quote in the video, right? And then what's the visual? Because I doubt that she has put out this quote. Someone else clipped the video. I mean, maybe that's not a comment as much, so maybe it's okay, but you know what I'm saying? Are we talking about the comment including the tweet, or are we talking about the, or are we talking about the quote? So,
I mean, the video is like 20 seconds or something like that, if I remember.
well, no, but I'm talking about this part here and who this person is, right?
Oh, I thought it was just the quote from the press secretary. It was interesting.
Right. So if it's just the quote from the press secretary,
Yeah.
what visual do I put up for the quote? Do I just take it out and quote her, which is probably the best way to do it?
Yeah, you can just I would just put a screenshot of that whole thing, because it is, it's multimodal. Like a lot of that is important to kind of understanding what's going on. And then we can say, well, at Disclose TV, we don't know who that is, but that might not be terribly important in this argument to know who that is. And here's a typical kind of headline from a journalistic organization. But what we want to focus on is this argument that if you're providing information, you should be banned from all platforms. You shouldn't have access to one and then not two other ones or three other ones, right? Which is the argument that she's making. Which is funny because, I mean, jumping ahead, spoiler alert, whatever, which is funny because I think the White House would be immediately banned because like they trade in we all trade in misinformation, so it's kind of a funny standard. So basically it makes social media illegal would be what the White House wants to do.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that I prefer to reduce the cognitive load. And if we're talking about this quote, and we could use this picture, but if we have it in the context of the tweet, then that's adding additional confusion to the viewers.
I guess so. I mean, I think people can read Twitter pretty well. I think they would find it to be, oh, okay. I mean, I don't think it would do that, but I mean, I can appreciate the style concern. Like you want it to look like streamlined.
I mean, what's interesting
it's information processing theory and cognitive load. It's not so I wouldn't call it style. I would call it efficiency.
No, I don't know anything about this.
I know eventually you're gonna want to pull this up, but this is technically a response to her statement.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Not only is it technically a response to her statement, what I was going to say is if we were focusing on what she's saying, would we have pulled this statement out as the one to analyze? Because I think this was a cherry pick statement that on its own really does sound kind of crazy, right? So is that the one we would want to pull out of her speech, right? That's why I think taking someone else's selection of one of her quotes as the one we're going to analyze, we should probably choose.
Yeah, but we did that for Ted Cruz, no problem. And then I went to the whole speech, and you're like, oh no, let's not do that. So I mean, what's it going to be?
No, but it's still a part of the speech. It's just which part.
Yeah, but it was Ted Cruz that chose the part to pull out, and as opposed to this is somebody who wants to say how crazy inflammatory something was, and they pulled out probably the worst phrase.
Yeah, but I mean, Ted Cruz pulled out what he thought was the best part. I mean, you can't escape.
But that's okay to take someone. It's less disingenuous to take someone's what they think is best rather than cherry picking someone's worst.
We've already covered this, but Ted Cruz is always disingenuous.
Well, right, but we don't want to be disingenuous.
But the point is that we covered Ted Cruz on Ted Cruz, right? and this is disclosed TV on Sasaki. I don't know how to say her name. So it wouldn't be fair to Sasaki to choose the phrase that disclosed TV chose as the.
So I agree in looking at it, like maybe there's a better part of it or a different part of it, and maybe that would be good. I think if it's a phrase that people are talking about a lot, then I might lean towards it, even if it's negative. But in that case, yeah, it'd probably be better to go off the tweet rather than the actual, her utterance is the main thing, so we can talk about, are they pulling it out of context or not? Or we choose a phrase from her speech directly. So maybe it's better to actually use this as the base tweet. So it just depends on which way we want to go with it. But I don't know that I have time to go and find this.
I found the original post on the Post Millennial, if we want to use that, so that it doesn't have sort of all that disclosed TV context and all that stuff.
My link is the link to the press briefing. Yeah, the quote, I mean, I have it up on my screen, but the quote is, you shouldn't be banned from one platform and not others if you for providing misinformation out there. She just misspeaks in the middle of it. Yeah, there it is.
And I think that's why they didn't, on the Post Millennial, why they didn't do an exact quote, because she had this speech.
Yeah, it's just live speech, you know, it's just a transcript thing.
Yeah.
I do like the quote down below. I don't know. And in promoting quality information algorithms, I don't know how they work, but they all do know how they work. That's very Donald Rumsfeld there. She's wading into Rumsfeldian quote territory. That's great.
The problem is actually no one knows how they work.
Right.
So
Yeah. I know. That's what's funny about
it's
it.
factually inaccurate. Well, some of the that's inaccurate too. Some of the algorithms we know because they were hand coded, but the new AI ones are black box.
Yeah, right. It's kind of scary, but I like that quote a lot. It's funny.
All right, so show of hands. Do we want to actually quote her from the thing? Either of these quotes, and probably rephrase it. Do the millennial coverage, which is just quoting her. Do the disclose, which is probably a bit snarky. Not a lot. Maybe not. And then we can use Tim Pool as one of the responses. Any opinions? I think
I'm fine with either of them.
I think this one's the where we could focus on what she said and just use them as the quote machine, I think is okay. And then we stick with Twitter. And we don't have to worry about the, her saying it wrong, unless y'all want to cover her misspeech.
So where, are we, if we're talking about where the argument is that this and then what people are saying about it? And so that's where we start to say, here's the thing that we're talking about. Here's Tim Pool's response. Here's a bunch of other people's, and that's what. So it's less about the actual topic and more about, as per this whole session, the conversation about that topic and sort of how people are talking about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let me just.
It's interesting because using this tweet, I think, seems cleaner, but I think the other one, the Tim Pool one, kind of is messier, but in a way that could almost be good because it's a messy information system right now.
Well, we'll definitely cover that. I didn't realize that back wasn't completely black.
Oh, it looks like a nice. Well, wait, that's a different thing.
And how do
I think it looks nice. I like the gray.
So what I'm doing is, I'm putting the thing in there and I'm putting a link on it, so you can just on the image, but we don't have to do that. So then now let's put in. I wonder if I can find the other way I'd kind of like to do this is to create the other way other than putting it in a slide deck. But the way I kind of like is putting it in a Twitter. I don't remember what they're called, but you can select the tweets in order that you want to display them. Although I don't know if you can share those, like if multiple people could edit the same one. So maybe that's not the.
I don't know. I'm like trying to click tabs on your screen like an idiot. A little bit tired today.
Pretty common.
Yeah, I only have commenting permissions on the
Oh, really?
slideshow. Yeah, on the Google thing.
So let's fix that right now while we're in this process of behind the scenes stuff. So I want to make sure that you have full access to the whole folder. So, oh, maybe that's for everyone. I haven't added anyone. Really, what I would need to do, I wonder if I should just move this in the Canonical Debate Lab folder. I guess for now, sorry, I got all this junk on my screen. Share. Oh no. Okay, I sent everyone invites to the folder.
There we go.
I was thinking it'd also be nice to know, I guess if we have these in order of that I'd be calling on people. Maybe we need another slide here that says, or we could do it after this order. All right, so do we want to go straight to the Tim pool? Guess might as well. Now he's not responding to that exact tweet, but he's responding to the topic. So, but I think it's fine. It's literally the same screenshot. Oh, I didn't link that up, did I? All right. Any other responses we want to cover?
Yeah, I have a couple of screenshots I took that I thought were kind of interesting. I'll put them in there.
Okay. The best way to put these in here is to add the blank slide.
Okay. And just put them on the blank slide?
Yep.
Okay.
Put in a few.
Huh.
Hey,
I'm not seeing changes on my screen. Where am I? How weird. Oh yeah, I still don't have access to this one you're editing.
make sure I got it in the right order. You might have to close it and reopen it, or
Really?
refresh the screen. For the
Oh, okay, there it
notification.
goes. All right.
Oh yeah, there you go. Popped up. So Tim or Adrio, do y'all have any responses you want to cover? I guess we have Tim's in here. Do you have a funny
Unfortunately-
response to this, Tim? Go ahead, Adrio.
I'm going to say the
No, I've seen a lot of-
original. The original doesn't really seem to have much in the way of conversation, so I don't think we'll have there. So we might sort of talk about Tim's response and then talk about the responses to Tim's, because his has a lot more sort of interesting responses.
Yeah, so
and-
it's fine. So any of the responses that you find.
Okay, these are the three I think are pretty. I mean, they all could be funny too, right? Like, there's some funny stuff. But I like these three responses.
Now, those are responses you want to be in responses. You said they're interesting.
I
or
think
did you say
so. I
funny?
mean, I think a couple of them are pretty funny, but they could be funny. I mean, I like this fentanyl one; is pretty good.
So we wanted to have another section for just
Mhm.
snarky, funny sort of things like that. Do you want any of those in that in
Um,
that section, or are these just that are just also funny?
I don't know. This last
'Cause
one,
we're
about
thinking more
all
like
that-
funny haha rather than funny.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, no, I don't have anything like that. These were the ones I read a bunch of them, and these are the ones that stood out to me as having some, something interesting to look at.
Okay, so Tim, you wanted to do the snarky funny section. Do you have a sample tweet for us on this topic?
I'm looking for a good snark. There's one on tanning your testicles. I guess that could fall into that. I'll pull that one up.
We need a snark bot, an algorithm to seek out snark and just collect like a robot.
Yeah.
That'd be hard to do.
Steve, would it be reasonable for you to ask you to put the links on this so I don't have to go
Oh yeah,
find
no
'em
problem.
when you have a chance?
Yeah, I'll go find them.
When do I paste this? I have to open the link, I guess. Paste it in.
So there's a section with the label funniest responses. And we can change that to snark or something. I don't know. We probably need to come up with a name for that segment.
Snarkument.
All right, I'm officially changing that to snarkument.
You mean argue snark?
Snark off, buddy. Whoa, that's not right.
Arguments, plural. Is it?
There we go. That's what I wanted. That's what I assume you want, is just the raw kind of.
Yeah, if you want to, you can highlight the image and then hit this link button.
Oh, you want it? Oh, okay.
and
I
then
see.
you
yeah,
can
yeah.
actually fill out the link.
Okay, I thought
You
you
don't
wanted
have to do it that way.
No,
But
I'll
that
do
way
it.
I could just
However,
click it during the show.
yeah, I think it should be easy and consistent.
Okay. So Adro, do you want to? Have you found any responses you want to cover? Steve's got 3, Tim's got 1.
Not
they can-
really. I think mine is sorting different because I'm not logged into Twitter. It's like just showing me everything. So like a bunch of stuff with no comments or no retweets. And I'm not sure how to show the proper version, so I don't have anything.
But we could also, because I pretty much thought it would take the whole show to go through this prep. So we can, people can go through and add more items. I can sort it and play with it a bit more, and then we can do it next Monday. Is everyone able to make next Monday?
I should be able to. I'm I'm like in my traveling post-COVID traveling party mode. So I'm going to Seattle tomorrow, and I'll be in Seattle. So I'll be on Seattle time, but I should be able to make it. I don't think it'll be any problem. I'll let you know, but I'll just be like 2 hours behind you. West Coast. Is that true? Tanning your test, does that do that? I'm just kidding.
Sounds like we need to do a test.
I think we'll all find out in about a month, right?
Yeah, yikes, yeah.
Asking for a friend.
You have to watch the next episode to find out.
I love that asking for a friend. The asking for a friend might serve as like a Toolman qualifier in a weird way.
Uh-huh.
Or mitigating the traditional qualifier is mitigating the intensity of the claim, like always or sometimes or in situations where it rains on Tuesday or whatever, however you want. But this does it in a term of like, how serious should you take my argument? So it's an interesting twist on the qualifier in my mind.
I do need to.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, that's fine. I'm just talking.
I do need a way to figure out. I guess I can go through the history and see who put it in, but I need to make sure they're in the right order. Because if like Adriel adds one, I kind of want to. I don't know if we want to stay on. We want to keep bouncing between people. So it'd be nice. In this case, we might start with Steve, and then go to Tim, and then go to Adriel if he has one, or me. I gotta find one, I guess.
Snarkyments. I love it. It looks even better in text. I'm looking at the slide.
Yeah, right.
It's great. It's great. It's like the Smurfs, how they would use Smurf as the swear word in place of everything. Snark. And
of course, oftentimes they're not arguments at all. It's just snark.
All right, I gotta head out, guys. I have a meeting starting in 4 minutes.
All right,
All right.
thanks, Adriel.
See you later.
See you next
Have a good
time.
Thanks
day.
all.
Yep.
Bye.
All right, so yeah, let's try and just put more in there. I'll try to arrange them and stuff, and then we'll do the recording next Monday. And I don't know if we want to get a week ahead on topics or just take a week off.
I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel like we're all doing a bunch of other stuff. So I think as it comes out, it comes out. But I think we're all committed to some kind of consistency, but it might not be like,
Oh yeah, we won't be doing this weekly anyways, probably.
Right.
Unless we really want to. So
I mean, I always vote for quality over quantity. I think we all do.
So yeah, we could but yeah, if you see any interesting tweets, go ahead and just post them in as options for next. Maybe we should say potential topic.
Yeah.
In there so we can.
Yeah, what I think contributes to both quality and quantity is when we have the rhythm of how to get things. And I think, we stop at this might be interesting or this might be interesting, but, probably what I'm going to do next time is if there's something I really think is interesting, I will already start, put up this document and start putting out the ones I find, like do some of the footwork ahead of time, because that kind of gets the ball rolling. I think because none of us took that next step, it just stagnated where it was. It's not so much lack of time that's a problem, but also lack of inspiration, right? Once you see it happening, it's a lot easier to go, I'll throw in like we're doing right now. Here's an image, here's that, right?
Yeah, I think I'm okay with posting an idea because this is supposed to be a collaborative space, but I guess I'd like it to be clear, like, are you suggesting so yeah, we can have that talk, but yeah, let's use words like proposal or something, when you're actually serious about it. And yeah, if you post, my preference would be they only be proposals, just so I don't have to read your half-baked ideas, but
So we should put proposal : and then put our link and explain what we're up to.
Yeah, and then we could search anytime we want. We could just search through
and if I'm spitballing, I won't use the word proposal.
Right.
Great, got it.
Make it clear, and then I could ignore you.
Great. Joining the ranks of thousands of students over
there. Right.
Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard.
All right, great. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for working through that. And then
it's great.
We'll chat over there and and we'll give it a good go next week. And I didn't edit the last one. I probably won't get around to it. So what I think I'll do is I'll try and edit this one since we're a little bit more.
I kind of like the way, I kind of like this working in public thing has got all my wheels turning. I kind of like this, just sending this out there. Like, this is pretty engaging. There's an audience for this. I mean, that might sound dumb.
I just think you need 2 tracks. So right. the people who only want the finished product and other people who want to watch it happen.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, you guys know a lot more about this working in public stuff than me. It's like a a code thing, I think, is where it's coming from. But yeah. It's new to me, and I think it's like, wow, this is like, there are people out there who would like this content. You guys are like, well, duh. I mean, that would be.
Well, it's a lot fewer than you think. It's always like, why isn't anyone watching it? It's like, oh, I haven't promoted it, and my friends are tired of seeing it show up. I mean, right now, anyone who's subscribed to my YouTube channel, I do 3 videos a week or something like that, and they're all completely about different projects, and it's all just random. So I could never turn that YouTube channel into something.
It's like a buffet.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Never know what you're gonna get.
Well, I do.
You don't get to choose. It's a buffet.
It's a buffet.
You don't choose the plate.
Chocolate cake, green beans, and buttered noodles. Those are the 3 things.
It's more like reaching into the bag of Hogwarts jelly beans. You don't know what's gonna come out next.
And the flavor,
Right. Yeah. Feet.
I'm trying to get some of my colleagues to watch these and get some feedback. So, but it's
that'd be awesome.
Slow going. I got one guy I'm talking to who's a professor in Boston, and he's watching.
Tell him to feel free and put it on 2x.
2x. Oh,
double speed.
I haven't done that yet.
I do that. I actually do that to most of what my regular podcasts are at 1.5, and then I slow it down to normal if someone's got an accent that I'm not familiar with.
I gotta figure this out.
And like this stuff where people are kind of thinking and they're a little slower. I two times it, and you get used to it real quick, and you can.
That's amazing. I gotta try that. That's cool.
And I was listening to some people analyzing the sanction hearings on the Kraken lawyers, and so they're analyzing it, and they played back something about, oh wait, I have this on 1.5 times speed, and most people listen to us on 1.5 times speed, so they're probably hearing it on 2.25 times speed right now. Let me slow that down.
Yeah, and it was the other kind of fascinating thing that I don't know what to do with, but the Better Skeptics. Steve, did you see us talking about Better Skeptics, or did we talk
a little bit? A little bit.
So this guy put up $10,000.
I need to listen to that one.
But he put up $10,000 to debunk Weinstein at $100 per claim. And then, but it was interesting. So I was listening to the guy who put up the money on that, and I was in his Twitter Spaces, and he was talking about the Sam Harris video, the Sam Harris podcast, talking about. He had another guy in there, and it was just amazing listening to these 3 or 4 people talk about it. It's like every time I listen to each one of them, I agree with them.
Yeah.
But they completely disagree with each other. And I'm like,
right.
It's so much energy to get to what's really going on.
Yeah, right. Those are people who are just really, really good with words. They're gonna move you.
Yeah.
It's sort of like watching tennis. I know that's an old metaphor, but when you watch professional tennis, you have these weird moments of like, how can they hit the ball that hard? And then how come he didn't return that? You have that thought at the same time. It strikes me that way sometimes. It's like, well, yeah, he didn't return it. It's a 120-mile-an-hour ball. Like,
right.
No one can, like 5 people can return that, in the world.
Yeah. Cool.
And that would be an interesting segment too, is like the like they all convinced me segment.
Yeah,
like
right.
You just play each one of them that convinced you. Something like
that's a hard position to be in. To be in.
I got to go build websites for my brother and my sister-in-law.
Oh, I hope they're paying you.
No.
Oh, in love. They're paying you in familial.
Use Squarespace. Are we sponsored? Is that?
If we were, like, I need to go build Squarespace.
Go to by hand.
I need to go build.
They have no money even for Squarespace.
For Squarespace.
But I've been wanting to kind of build my own.
Yeah.
better
They have
things.
no money even for Squarespace. All they got is you.
Yeah, they don't
Bottom
have
of the
$8 a
barrel.
month. Yeah.
They got blogger money, blogger.com money.
Yeah. But I've been wanting to redo my own website, so I'm putting them on the same framework that I'm going to use. For
Oh,
that, so.
Very cool. Very cool.
I could spin something up. Anyways,
Yeah.
cool.
Have a
Yeah, I
good
gotta
week,
go.
guys. Have a
I
good
gotta go
week.
through.
Have a good week, and
You too.
always nice chatting.
All right. Bye.
Bye.